I wanted to talk a little bit about something. This is footage from my raid from last night. This is actually re-clears. Uh, I think the volume is just very, very low. This is actually a couple of re-clears that we were doing last night, and this is P6S, which is Savage. But the topic is blind progging versus, I guess, what most people would consider normal rating or whatever, which is kind of like been established in most MMO culture that if you want to jump into a raid, what is expected is like you go and you watch the guide or whatever. If you go into, end game content, it's kind of expected that you have watched the guide by the time you jump into it. And we have this static where there's 8 of us, obviously, because you need 8 people to do a static. And what we do is we blind prog. We are currently starting P8S. P7S is still not exactly in the bag, which is why last night we spent quite a couple of attempts just kind of like perfecting our strategy for P7S. But we have killed P7S already. But I just wanted to bring to the forefront that it's 2 incredibly different experiences to actually raid blind, or what people call blind prog, versus playing with a guide. And I find it interesting playing with a guide. I mean, play after, doing a raid after watching a guide. And I find it interesting that the preferred way of raiding is to actually watch a guide before, because nobody wants to waste time and whatnot. But in my opinion, and again, I'm not saying that the way that I do things or the way that my static does things is the right way to go about it. The concept of fun is going to be something that's going to vary from person to person. So each person is going to have a personal preference. But I do feel like because of the fact that the norm of rating challenging content, the norm of doing that is around basically watching guides ahead of actually trying the content. Since this becomes what is expected of most people, this becomes the type of rating style that most people adopt. And that is to say that most people, you go and you watch a guide, and then you go and you jump into a raid and party find or whatever. Somebody links a macro, you pick it. I'm speaking specifically about 14, but you can apply this example to pretty much any MMO that has like a rating scene. You can apply this to World of Warcraft. Most people don't even attempt raids unless there's already a guide out there, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people jump into PTRs and World of Warcraft and whatnot and develop their raid strategies ahead of the raid actually releasing, so that you effectively already have the guide to the raid before the raid even comes out. Now, I think that this is kind of like a very bad thing. And again, this is just my opinion. This is the way that I personally look at things. And I understand that there's going to be different viewpoints. There's going to be a lot of people when it comes to MMOs that they care more about efficiency than necessarily enjoying a raid. Or there's even a lot of people where the efficiency is the fun part for them, which again, I can completely understand that. It's very hard for me, despite the fact that I can understand it, it's very hard for me to relate to it. Because the way that I look at it, the way that you do a raid, for those of you that maybe never raided before or whatever, when you jump into a raid, what you are doing essentially is the same thing as solving a puzzle. And this is true for pretty much any type of raiding that I've done, whether it's World of Warcraft, whether it's Final Fantasy XIV. You are solving a puzzle. Now, sometimes that puzzle requires twitch skills, requires very good reflexes. Sometimes it requires you to be excellent at performing your DPS, or a combination of those things. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And some of those pieces do involve basically just being able to perform to the best level possible with your class. But there's no denying that there's definitely some of the pieces of the puzzle are solving the strategy of the boss. And to me, when you are jumping into a raid and you look at a guide ahead of time, it's kind of like you have a puzzle and you're looking at the solution to the puzzle where they just tell, okay, this part goes here, this part goes there, this part. And you're not really solving the puzzle. You are being told what the solution to the puzzle is, and you're just executing. I can understand there's some satisfaction to executing as well, But my biggest satisfaction comes from figuring it out, along with a group of people that are figuring it out as well. Now, I'm curious, given the chance, because again, this is something that, like I said, it is a kind of like a norm in MMOs. People are expected to see these guides. People are expected to know the strategy before they jump into the encounter. But given the opportunity, how many of you would actually prefer the blind prog? As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a poll here. I mean, just imagine if you happen to be a raider, right? What would you prefer to do in your raids? What is your preferred method? We're going to just say method, and then we're going to put blind prog. I'm going to name the other option guided prog, whatever. But basically, it is progressing through a boss after watching a guide, after watching strategies, after seeing macros. And we'll do a quick 1-minute poll here on stream. And you guys can tell me, what would you prefer? Again, if there wasn't any social pressure, because there is, like I said, a social pressure from the MMOs themselves for you to know what you are doing before you jump into an encounter. But let's say that pressure wasn't there. If that pressure wasn't there, what would you prefer to do? Would you prefer to go in blind, or would you prefer to actually just see the guide anyway because you just care about the guide proc? And for people that end up seeing this on YouTube, I'll be very curious to hear from you in the comment section as well, because this is something that I'm just curious about. Like I said, I've explained my reasoning where I think that solving the puzzle with a group of people is much more interesting. Like these people that you see in this raid right here were all on voice comms during this fight. We're all saying, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, blah, blah. You saw me die there because Hollow killed me, because that's just the way that it goes. And, you know, sometimes you might even see unorthodox strategies if I show you my videos, because a lot of the times we come up with solutions, and then after we kind of like figured out a boss, we go and we see what the actual solution that is most accepted by the community. And it's not always like what we're doing. And it's interesting to see this result here on stream, where you can see that the vote, you know, blind prog actually wins by 88%. It was only 17 votes, but it's whatever. But 88% of people say that they would prefer blind prog, which is then why it's so curious to me that the way that it ends up happening is most people just go for the guided progression style instead. But yeah, I think that blind prog is an experience that most people should try to get. Unfortunately, that does require a bit more social skills. It does require you to actually interact with other people. Like in my case, you guys want to know how I got our raid leader? I went and I basically stole him from World of Warcraft. It was my raid leader from World of Warcraft. I basically stole him. I went in there and I said, listen, your game fucking sucks. Come play my game and let's raid. And that's what he did. That's right. I was like, hey, man, just come play my game instead, man. Fuck you. Actually, no, I didn't just do that. I actually bought him the game. That was, I think it was 2 years ago, give or take. They had like a massive discount in Final Fantasy 14. And I just bought him like all of the expansions, whatever, for, I think it was like 20 euro or some bullshit like that. And I just gave him the game and I said, come play my game, man. Fuck your game. Your game sucks. Some people want the blind proc, but want to have the reward this week. Yeah, but it's like, to be honest, why is the reward more important than the experience, right? To me, that's the way that I look at it. I don't think that getting the gear is the most important part of raiding. As a matter of fact, I would say it's the complete opposite. The raiding is the reward in and of itself, much more so than the gear that you get. Like the experience that I have of hanging out with these 7 people, like we do about 3 nights a week, 2 hours. The experience that I have playing with these people, doing blind progs and just shooting the shit while we're doing it, making fun of each other when somebody makes a mistake and whatnot, but still trying to progress at a reasonably serious pace. Not like super hardcore. Like, as a matter of fact, Ketnet has a lot of times night shift, so we just straight up can't raid for like 2 days of the week or whatever. But it's like, it's whatever, because raiding, I feel like a lot of people equate raiding to a reward, when in fact raiding is more of like a social thing that you get to do with friends, more so than necessarily See, dude, I just noticed something. See, look at this. Q, this was Q's fault. Because, like, I was in the right square, and Q moved over here. Q sabotaged everyone. Q, by the way, is our raid leader. Like, this guy right here, the white mage, he's our raid leader. But then again, I should have known better than to get a glare bot to be a raid leader. But, you know, it is what it is. You are both wrong. No. I'm pretty sure that this square is going to be safe. Never mind. It was this square. This one was the right one. You fucked it up real bad. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But see, this is the fun part, right? Like, we fucked it up. Oh, and the boss is about to die, and we fucked up the mechanic. But it's okay, because we popped tank limit break, so it doesn't really matter. But see, this is what it's all about. We went in blind. We came up with our own strategies. We figured out what works for us. And it's just a fantastic experience to do, and I wish that more people had access to it. And again, I understand that people have schedules, people have shit to do, and therefore they sacrifice the blind experience over, instead just getting the rewards and going for a more guided experience. But I'm just curious, like in the stream right now, most of the opinion was that blind prog ends up being a better experience, and it is the experience that people want. And I'm curious to see if on YouTube that is the same. If people prefer blind prog versus guided prog, let me know. It was just something that I wanted to bring up because I thought it was interesting.